Yo, what's going on, guys? It's me, Aaron, with Evolution Daily. Don't be afraid to lock in to one set. I've had a lot of situations over the years where I've pulled a girl within 20 minutes of meeting her. I've had car pulls, I've had bathroom pulls, I've just had a girl who was just so down, like the sexual attraction was there so much, she was so turned on that she was just down to fucking come home with me right away. But the fact of the matter is that that's not always going to be the case, and it's very easy to fall into that place where you get really, really impatient. I made a Facebook Live video about this just a little while ago, and I was explaining one of the crazier polls that I've had in my life, which was, I call it a 5-minute poll, but legitimately it was probably closer to like a 3-minute poll. I was going to meet up with my buddy Ty, who was just one of my natural friends. This guy never watched a pickup video, read a book, never wrote a field report, nothing like that. And this guy's still probably going to sleep with more girls than any of us ever will. And I was going to meet up with this guy at one of our local watering holes. And I walk in, and he's actually already in a 3-set. And this dude would just get wasted all the time. And he's in this 3-set. And I go up, and he's already vibing with these girls. And he's like, hey, Aaron, guys, meet my friend, whatever. Start talking to this one girl. And I don't really remember exactly how the conversation went. But basically what ended up happening was, I'll just say it doesn't matter. Her name was Allie. And so she tells me her name is Allie. And I'm like, oh, Allie, like from the Notebook. I can be your Noah. And I start making all these fucking stupid Notebook references about how we're going to be in love together, whatever. And I'm like, you know what? We should actually go back to my place and just watch the Notebook right now. And she's like, okay, let's do it. And I'm completely kidding. I don't really think that this girl is actually going to fucking come home with me. And I grab her hand and I start leading her out the door. And every step that I'm taking, I'm thinking to myself, is she gonna stop now? Like, why is she just going along with this? And just step, all the way out the door through the crowd of people. All of a sudden, we're on the street. She's like, how far is it? I'm like, it's right down the road. It's like 4 or 5 blocks away from my house. So I walk her home, and we end up hooking up within probably 2-3 minutes of being at my house. And obviously, I'm not putting on the fucking Notebook. And I've had these situations where, like something like that, where it makes me absolutely hate the times where I lock into a set for, an hour and a half, 2 hours of the night, and then it doesn't end up going anywhere. That fucking used to crush me, but now I'm at a place where I understand that these 5-minute pulls that I've had, these car pulls, these quick little situations that I've had, they're not common. So yes, they've happened, but just because something's happened and it's a possibility doesn't make it a probability. And the fact of the matter is that way more of my pulls have come from actually getting in with one girl, not falling into the trap of feeling like, oh, I'm not making enough approaches, I'm not hammering it out, or oh, this conversation isn't the most exciting thing in the world, so how about I go get into something crazier? Like, you have to sometimes be able to build enough comfort and enough commonalities for you to just get the girl to a place where at the very fucking least, she just feels safe enough to go home with you. Because that's the truth. A lot of the times, yes, there's going to have to be a lot of physicality and a lot of sexual attraction and a lot of sexual innuendo. And you're going to have to be making out with the girl. And you're going to have to really get her fucking fired up. But I have had way more pulls where honestly, we just end up vibing about the same shit. One of the girls that I pulled recently, this was this past Friday night. Me and this girl, I ended up actually going up to her and telling her that she looked like Maggie Grace from Taken, and which is the girl that gets taken, and I started telling her that, like, I'm gonna kidnap her and all this shit, which I don't recommend. Like, a lot of guys can't really pull that off, but I was pulling it off in a really funny way, and she was intrigued by it. And then what ends up happening is we're at a karaoke night, and I end up leading her outside because I tell her, I'm like, hey, look, because we start vibing, and I tell her, I'm like, hey, look, I want to talk more, but, like, let's go outside. I don't want to keep yelling over this music. She's like, okay, let's go. So we go outside, and I'm in Columbus, Ohio, where it's freezing cold constantly. And, well, not constantly, but right now in the winter. So I take her outside, and luckily they have this big tent set up, so it's warmer out there. And I take her outside, and we just start really fucking vibing. We're talking about a bunch of shit. I'm always bringing up Joe Rogan podcast. You guys hear me talking about that. And it turns out she actually is a big fan of Sam Harris, who's been on the podcast. So we start talking about all this crazy shit about free will. It turns out that she's a big fan of Eckhart Tolle, and yada yada yada. We just have so much in common that basically this girl just ends up, in my opinion, she just feels like we're actually just gonna go back to my place and just talk about shit. And I brought up some bands, and I'm telling her, I'm like, yeah, once we get back to my place, I'm gonna play you the Front Bottoms, I'm gonna play you modern baseball, whatever. It's like, oh really? When we get back to your place, that. And eventually, nearing the end of the night, I just end up telling her, I'm like, hey, so I live about 4 or 5 blocks away. You want to walk or you want to Uber? And so, which is also sort of like another really good polling technique, because you don't really give the option for no. You just give her one of two options that both really amount to a yes. And she ends up saying, she's like, let's Uber. So we just end up getting in the Uber and going back to my house. Now that was probably around 12:30, and I pulled around 1:45. So this was a 1 hour and 15-minute interaction, which again, it requires patience, because you do have this daunting thought in your mind where you're like, what if this hour and 15 minutes is just wasted, and I could have found a total yes girl. I could have, I could possibly be running around this bar right now and find some girl that's just super down to fuck and down to come home, and then that would be way more beneficial because I'm getting the fucking reward, which is I want to have sex with this girl. So you always run that risk. But again, the fact of the matter is that just because it's possible to have some of these faster polls, these speedy interactions that result in the girl coming home with you, again, it doesn't mean that it's probable. So don't be afraid to lock in and have a really engaging conversation that goes on for a while to make her feel like, I fucking know this guy. Because the fact of the matter, and like it's fucked up to say, but the fact of the matter is that most guys could physically dominate most women, and women have to be careful. They have to be careful that they're not going home with some guy that's gonna rape her or fucking beat her over the head and lock her in some dungeon basement, whatever. So the more comfort that you can build over time in these longer interactions, I swear to God, the more your results are going to improve. So again, don't be afraid to lock in set. Little side tangent, and I probably should just end this video right now, but I'm just going to go on it because I just enjoy nothing more than making these videos and rambling about shit. So I did have an interaction one time, and I'll never fucking forget this one. I'll never, ever forget it. So I'm out with my boy at this club here in Columbus, Ohio, and one of my main wings. And we end up, the second that we walk in, we end up in this 2-set. And this was a while ago, and I can't really fully explain like every little detail of it because this was about a year ago, but I've never really been able to forget it. And we walk in this 2-set right away as soon as we walk into the club. And I am just like, him and his girl are like, okay, they're like having a good time. But me and my girl are like falling in love. Like it's around 11 o'clock at night, and me and my girl, we just have so much fucking in common. We're making out, we're dancing, she's just going along with everything I'm telling her to do. I'm just doing the fucking kiss my cheek, she's kissing my cheek, she's just doing everything. The way she's looking at me, just like eye-o-eyes, blah, blah, blah. We're talking all about how we're gonna hang out that coming Saturday, yada, yada, yada. She's telling me that she can convince her friend to come over tonight, that they'll come over, but they've gotta stick together, so they've gotta fucking, if they're coming over, then they both gotta come and whatever. And basically the very end of the night, the girl just ends up getting too drunk, and her friend just kind of drags her away. And again, we're talking about like a 3-hour interaction here, okay? And it wasn't like I was being needy by sticking on her. It wasn't like she was being needy with me. It's just we were having so much fucking fun. End of the night, her drunk friend drags her away from me, and she's like, but let me get your number. I seriously want to hang out Saturday. Like, oh my God. And again, me and this girl just had such a fucking chemistry. It was crazy. Like, I hope you guys are at this level where sometimes you do find yourself in these interactions where you're just like fucking falling in love with some chick. It's an amazing feeling. It really is. And I get the girl's number, and I give her mine or whatever, and I text her the next day, and I get nothing. And I'm like, okay, maybe she's just probably just like really busy, whatever. And this was on a Thursday night, I believe. And so then I'm like, all right, like I'll give her till tomorrow. I'll see what's up. Hit her up on Saturday, and she fucking texts back and says, hey, I know we had like a lot of fun the other night, but I'm definitely not interested. And I'm like, what's the problem? She's like, well, I'm talking to somebody right now. And I'm like, well, that's no problem. I just want to be your friend. And she's like, yeah, I really don't think you would appreciate me being friends, but it was really nice meeting you. And the next text that I send her, it doesn't go through, meaning she blocked me. It was iPhone to iPhone. So she fucking blocked me. And I'll never, that was when it kind of started for me, where I was like, God damn, I spent so much time in that one interaction and nothing came out of it. And that's where fucking tried and true, I know, watered down fucking self-development philosophy, but it's true, enjoying the process comes into play. Having fun and making having fun really your ultimate goal. That's where that just becomes so fucking powerful, because I had a lot of fun that night. And if I can unattach myself from the fact that I didn't get delayed, we didn't even go on a date, she didn't become a fuck buddy, anything like that, but we had a really, really good time, then that's the win. That's where the win comes from. So even though I had that really negative interaction, I mean negative, positive, however you want to take it, you still just have to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that over my years in pickup, a lot of my same night polls, a lot of my numbers that converted into dates, which turned into polls, a lot of the girls that I've ended up hooking up with over time have come from sets that I really, really locked into. So I hope that this video, along with the ridiculous stories that I told within this video, can really help you out, and I hope that you are not afraid to really lock into sets and do whatever it takes to really stick in some of these when it is appropriate to do so, and when it's going to be beneficial to both you and the girls. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe if you've yet to do so already, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.